In Paris, Vincent and Sophie are a married couple running a small butcher shop. But there's a problem. Business is terrible. Customers are few. And those who do walk and get frustrated watching Vincent weirdly massage the meat like he's giving it a spa day. One day, chaos hits. A group of angry vegan activists storms the shop, splashing paint everywhere, smashing windows, and spraying graffiti across the walls. Furious, Vincent bolts after them and manages to tackle one activist to the ground. Just as he's about to pull off the guy's mask and feel victorious, the activist's friends rush back, kick Vincent in the stomach, and drag their buddy to safety before disappearing. Later, Vincent and Sophie visit their friends, Stephanie and Mark, to share more bad news. The bank rejected their loan request, so they're on the verge of bankruptcy. Stephanie initially offers some sympathy, but that doesn't last long. She quickly switches gears, boasting about how much money Mark's butcher shop rakes in. During dinner, Mark joins the brag fest and, as a gift, hands Vincent a gun to protect their struggling shop. Vincent hesitates. He doesn't have a permit and knows this is a bad idea. But Mark won't take no for an answer and fires a shot into a toy floating in the pool just to show off. On the drive home, things take another turn. Sophie bluntly tells Vincent she wants a divorce. Their marriage has become dull, and she craves a man who excites her. But Vincent isn't even listening. He's spotted something. The activist he tackled earlier is now casually riding a bicycle nearby. Without thinking, Vincent slams the car into reverse to confront him. But disaster strikes. He accidentally runs the guy over and kills him on the spot. Panic sets in. Vincent wants to call the police and explain it was an accident, but Sophie knows better. She reminds him that he's had alcohol and there's a gun in the trunk. They're looking at a life sentence if they go to the cops. Sophie, thinking fast, remembers a true crime documentary she watched. Let's do what that serial killer did, she suggests. Chop him up and dump the pieces around the city. Moments later, Vincent is in their butcher shop, the activist's body laid out on the table. With his work tools, he gets to slicing, dicing, and dissecting the corpse into smaller pieces. As he's working, an ear accidentally drops to the floor. Their dog snatches it up and devours it, wagging its tail for more. Curious, Vincent tosses the other ear, and the dog happily munches it down. Vincent stares at the scene, deep in thought. After the gruesome task, Vincent heads to the bedroom, hoping for some rest. But Sophie is busy watching another crime documentary and reminds him that they're separated now. He's stuck sleeping on the couch. The next morning, Vincent wakes up late and rushes to the butcher shop, only to discover something horrifying. Sophie has already sold the meat he left on the slicer, thinking it was ham. Before he can say a word, a customer comes back, raving about how amazing the ham tasted and demanding more. Vincent tries to sell her regular meat instead, but she only wants the special ham. Sophie is confused, so Vincent makes up a story. He changed suppliers. Now curious, Sophie tastes the meat and is instantly blown away by how good it is. Vincent reluctantly claims it's Iranian pork, and the customer buys everything she can get. After she leaves, Sophie demands the truth. Vincent spills the whole story, expecting her to freak out. And she does, for about 2 seconds. Then, in classic Sophie fashion, she shrugs and says, "Don't throw it away. We can sell the rest and make some money." Vincent refuses, but Sophie is persuasive. She reminds him that selling the whole body would get rid of the evidence. Right then, another customer walks in. Turns out, the first woman shared the ham with her friends, and now they all want a taste of the mysterious Iranian pork. Word spreads like wildfire, and soon the shop is packed with customers, all begging for the special meat. The couple, desperate for cash, keeps selling it. When Officer Ntamak arrives to buy some Iranian pork himself, Vincent and Sophie nearly have heart attacks. But thankfully, the officer doesn't notice anything unusual about the meat and leaves without suspicion. That night, Vincent hesitantly tries a piece of the human meat for dinner, and to his shock, he loves it. Sophie takes this as a sign and floats a wild idea. They should start killing people and selling their meat. Vincent laughs it off, thinking she's joking. But Sophie is dead serious. This could save the shop, she insists. The next day, Their daughter Chloe drops by with her new boyfriend, Lucas. But there's a twist. Lucas is vegan, though he claims he's not extreme like the activists who trash their shop. He assures them he respects meat eaters and disagrees with those kinds of radical actions. At first, Vincent and Sophie don't mind Lucas. That is, until Chloe casually announces that she's become vegan too, all because of Lucas. Things quickly get awkward when Lucas refuses to eat the mushrooms Vincent made because they touched chicken juice. He won't drink their wine either, explaining that traditional wine isn't vegan since crushed grapes contain dead insects. Vincent and Sophie exchange stunned glances. Their world is spinning faster than ever, and the question lingers. What's next for this butcher couple turned accidental serial killers? The couple brings out some cheese and a cake, hoping Lucas will at least eat dessert. But nope, he won't touch those either because they contain milk and eggs. As if that's not bad enough, Lucas casually calls Sophie an old cow while lecturing her about animal cruelty on farms. By the time Chloe and Lucas leave, Vincent is fuming. His frustration bubbles over, and he finally agrees to kill people. Their first mission? Scouting for the perfect target. They head to a vegan restaurant and start analyzing the clients like they're picking out fresh produce. They need someone with a good amount of meat on them and minimal stress. Their eyes land on the cook, a large, well-built guy who seems like a perfect candidate. When his shift ends, Vincent follows him home, knife in hand. But things don't go as planned. The man screams, Vincent panics, and instead of finishing the job, he bolts out of the house like a kid running from a haunted basement. Back in the car, he tries to lie, telling Sophie the guy fought back. But Sophie knows him too well. She calls him out and insists they need better planning. Drawing from her endless knowledge of crime documentaries, she comes up with more ideas. The next day, they head to a different town, posing as vegan activists outside a grocery store. Sophie is in her element, spitting facts she learned from Lucas to argue with a man who insults them. A fellow vegan stops by to congratulate them on their activism and launches into a long, angry rant about the system. The guy won't shut up, so Sophie yells something wildly inappropriate to scare him off. Then, a much friendlier vegan approaches, and the couple arranges to meet him later to discuss activism. When they meet up, the guy brings two more friends, and Vincent and Sophie realize they can't take on all three at once. They consider leaving, but the trio reveals they're planning to attack a meat processing plant that night. Vincent, ignoring Sophie's protests, agrees to join. On the way there, the activists hand out masks, and one of them squints at Vincent, thinking he looks familiar. Vincent quickly distracts him with a fake backstory. We're florists. Crisis averted. When they arrive, Sophie's jaw drops. It's Mark's meat processing plant. She pretends to stay outside as the lookout, but she's actually horrified by what Vincent is about to do. Inside, Vincent unleashes his anger, smashing everything in sight, setting fires, and even peeing on a picture of Mark for good measure. Afterward, Sophie is furious. At dinner, she scolds Vincent for betraying their friends. But Vincent couldn't care less. To him, big chains like Mark's are the real threat to small businesses, not vegans. He orders a steak, but barely touches it because it doesn't compare to the taste of human meat. Sophie continues pushing him to keep killing, but Vincent's done. He refuses. Sophie, ever the instigator, taunts him, calling him a coward and saying he always leans on her when things get tough. Her words sting. Vincent gets so mad he raises his fork to hit her but stops just in time. He announces their relationship is over and storms out of the restaurant. Left alone, Sophie strikes up a conversation with the waiter, bonding over their mutual love of crime documentaries. The waiter, clearly interested, offers her a ride home. Once there, he notices the butcher shop and chuckles, finding it ironic that he gave a ride to a butcher because he's vegan. The flirting escalates, and the two share a kiss. But things take a dark turn when Sophie bites his tongue, drawing blood. Seeing the opportunity, she invites him inside to clean up. While the waiter is in the bathroom, Sophie excitedly tells Vincent about the kiss, emphasizing every detail to make him jealous. Furious, Vincent grabs his knife and starts sharpening it. Sophie's eyes light up. She loves seeing him fired up. But Vincent suddenly pauses, remembering something important. The best meat comes from relaxed cows. To get the waiter ready, Sophie gives him a massage on the couch. When she tells Vincent it's time, he hesitates again. But Sophie knows how to push his buttons. She mentions survival and threatens divorce if he doesn't follow through. That's all Vincent needs to hear. He storms into the living room, only to find the waiter completely naked, thinking this is some bizarre role-play game. Enraged, Vincent beats the guy to death. But right then, Chloe walks through the door. Panicking, Vincent washes the blood off his face using water from the fishbowl, and Sophie quickly hides the waiter's clothes and body behind the couch. Chloe's upset. Lucas broke up with her. He accused her of secretly eating meat and claimed that being a butcher's daughter means she's genetically destined to love meat. Chloe wants to stay the night and eat dinner with him, specifically asking for some of the shop's meat. Vincent and Sophie freak out, insisting she should give Lucas another chance and go back to him. Chloe reluctantly agrees and leaves, giving the couple enough time to clean up the mess. They get to work slicing up the waiter's body, and as they do, they realize how well they're working together. The killing may be gruesome, but it's rekindling the spark in their marriage. Later, they toss the waiter's bike into the river and sleep together on the couch, closer than they've been in years. The next morning, Stephanie and Mark call, needing moral support after discovering their trash shop. At first, Sophie feels a little guilty, but that quickly fades when Stephanie once again mocks Vincent's struggling business. Officer Ntamak arrives, confirming that the same activists who attacked Vincent's shop are responsible for the damage to Mark's. While Stephanie and Mark argue for government compensation, Ntamak pulls Sophie and Vincent aside. He quietly asks for more of that delicious Iranian pork. That afternoon, a long line forms outside their shop, and they sell out of the special meat within hours. Promising to have more tomorrow, the couple heads out that evening and kidnaps the cook from the vegan restaurant. After a brief moment of hesitation, they kill him in the bathtub. Days turn into weeks, and the couple falls into a routine. They develop new tactics for luring victims, and Vincent, once hesitant, now embraces the thrill of the hunt. The shop's popularity explodes, with lines of eager customers stretching down the street. Vincent and Sophie bond more deeply with each kill, even sharing playful, silly conversations while chopping up bodies. Murder, it turns out, is bringing them closer than ever. One night, they invite a vegan guy to join them on another meat plant thrashing spree. While the man browses through masks, Vincent quietly readies his knife, but the man catches him, kicks him in the stomach, and bolts out of the room. Without missing a beat, Vincent and Sophie take off after him, chasing him into a dark forest. Twigs snap under their feet, adrenaline pumping, but the guy is fast, and they lose him in the shadows. Sophie sighs, thinking their adventure is over. But Vincent isn't giving up. He hears movement nearby. Sophie quickly calls the guy's phone, and the ringtone echoes through the trees like a beacon. Panicking, the guy tries to run again, but trips over a root and crashes to the ground. By the time the couple catches up, they find him lying motionless. Turns out fear got the better of him. He's dead from a heart attack. The next day, Sophie and Vincent share the heart attack steaks with Stephanie and Mark at dinner. The couple praises the meat, chewing more quietly than usual, their usual bragging toned down by jealousy. But when Mark bites into something hard, he pulls out a small metal object. Stephanie gasps. "That's a pacemaker," she exclaims. Thinking fast, Vincent snatches it and coolly claims it's a livestock tracking microchip. But when Mark and Stephanie mock their small-time butcher shop again, Vincent snaps. He finally stands up for himself, hurling insults right back. Things escalate quickly, and Mark lunges at Vincent. They wrestle in the garden until Vincent tackles him into the pool. The fight gets primal. Vincent even bites off Mark's ear, chewing it before spitting it out dramatically. "Just making a point," he says when Stephanie yells at him. After the chaos, Vincent gets inspired by a documentary on leopards. He studies their camouflage and stalking techniques, practicing them to become a more efficient predator. From then on, his hunting evolves. He watches animal documentaries religiously, learning how to choke people like a python and strike like a lion. The murders aren't just business anymore. They're a twisted aphrodisiac for the couple. After a good hunt, they often end up in bed, fueled by the high of their deadly deeds. One afternoon, they host a barbecue picnic in the park, sizzling human meat on the grill. But their peaceful afternoon is interrupted by a guy whining about the smoke and the smell of burning corpses, claiming it's ruining his favorite yoga spot. The couple nods and pretends to move, but when the man turns his back, they take care of him instead. Sometime later, they attend a vegan event, scouting for new victims. Vincent's attention is drawn to a chubby boy, but he immediately shakes it off, horrified by the idea of hurting a kid. As fate would have it, they bump into Chloe and Lucas, forcing them to pretend they've fully embraced veganism and only sell meat for income. Lucas, however, is suspicious. He mentions the disappearance of several vegans and blames it on the Butchers Guild or the Union of Farmers. Then, out of nowhere, Lucas snaps and publicly calls them butchers, loud enough for the activist who trashed Mark's shop to overhear. As they leave the event, Sophie notices a black woman walking by and jokingly points out that they haven't tried that flavor yet. Vincent hesitates, but ultimately agrees, abandoning his no women rule. That night, they kill the woman, but during the dissection, Vincent's knife breaks. Frustrated, he heads back to the shop for a replacement, only to find Officer Ntamak knocking on the door. Ntamak is just curious about the lights being on so late, and Vincent plays it cool, claiming he's working overtime. But when their dog trots by, with a human hand in its mouth, Vincent nearly panics. He yells at the dog to scare it off and quickly explains to Ntamak that he's jumpy because of the previous attack on his shop. Before leaving, Ntamak casually mentions the ongoing investigation into the missing vegans. Back home, Vincent tells Sophie he threw out the woman's meat because Ntamak might be catching on. He's ready to quit for good, but Sophie isn't. She's obsessed with beating the record of the world's most notorious serial killers. They argue until the doorbell rings. It's Lucas apologizing for his outburst and admitting that he feels like he's losing Chloe. Sophie sees an opportunity and invites him to stay and relax, but Vincent catches on. He knows exactly what Sophie is planning and kicks Lucas out before things escalate. Furious, he confronts Sophie and declares that the era of Iranian pork is officially over. That night, Sophie tries to distract herself by watching another crime documentary, but she can't stand it. She turns off the TV, restless, while Vincent falls asleep on the couch, the dog curled up beside him. The next day, Vincent tries selling regular beef at the shop, but the line of customers quickly disappears once they hear there's no more Iranian pork. Sophie calls him a coward, but Vincent has had enough. He walks out, leaving her alone. That evening, while Sophie closes the shop, the activists show up, asking about the florists they met. Things take a violent turn when they kidnap Sophie and lock her inside a butcher's fridge, tying her up. One of them, a man with a knife, leans in and tells her they're going to treat her the way she's treated animals. But before the man can strike, Vincent bursts in, his dog leading the charge. The dog immediately attacks, biting the man viciously. Vincent hurls a knife, hitting a woman square in the head and killing her instantly. He turns to fight the last man, but gets overpowered and stabbed with his own knife. Sophie, fueled by rage and adrenaline, manages to free herself and drives a meat hook into the attacker's back, killing him as the dog finishes him off by tearing into his groin. Gasping for breath, Sophie checks on Vincent and confirms the knife missed any vital organs. Sometime later, a sensational documentary is made about Sophie and Vincent. Stephanie and Mark give interviews, their jealousy still palpable. They even make racist comments about Ntamak while bragging that it was their investigation into the pacemaker that led to the couple's downfall. If it weren't for that tiny device, Sophie and Vincent might have gotten away with everything. In court, the couple receives a life sentence. When the judge asks if they have any regrets, Sophie responds without missing a beat. "My only regret is killing a guy with a pacemaker." Did you enjoy the recap? Please like and subscribe, and hit the notification bell to be updated next time we drop. Thanks for watching.